r/AskReddit by LaughWithMEmes. People sentenced in the 80s 2000s. What modern world change shocked you the most? There was that documentary of someone who was sentenced in the 70s, Otis I think, and he just couldn't believe the stuff he was seeing. Since he lived in New York, with all the screens, it was just a different city then, all the different colored drinks and people wearing earphones, like they were in the Secret Service. It's an interesting thing to watch. Dear fellas, I can't believe how fast things move on the outside. I saw an automobile once when I was a kid, but now they're everywhere. The world went and got itself in a big damn hurry. The parole board got me into this halfway house called the Brewer and a job bagging groceries at the Foodway. It's hard work. I try to keep up, but my hands hurt most of the time. I don't think the store manager likes me very much. Sometimes after work I go to the park and feed the birds. I keep thinking Jake might just show up and say hello. But he never does. I hope wherever he is, he's doing okay and making new friends. No matter what year you go in, when you come out and stand on carpet for the first time is the most disturbing feeling. Oh whoa. I felt this one. And darkness. Being able to be in 100% darkness again freaked me TF out for a while. Darkness, complete silence, showering without sandals, couches/chairs with cushions, and a bed that's actually long enough for me. Those were such odd yet amazing things/feelings to experience again. I hired a guy that was released after 17 years, circa 2005. A week after he started working he bought a phone. He had a childlike wonder with push-to-talk and texting. A week later he was pissed off that he couldn't text his order into Hungry Hours GBH. Valid thing to be pissed off about. Wait, this guy's right. Why can't we text orders? Because here's what would happen. Customer. 2 med pepper and 16 wings GNX. Pizza place. Thank you for your order. Our pizzas come in small, 12 inches, and large, 15 inches. Which size did you want? Did you mean our spicy pepper delight deal or the pepperoni? Can I also please take your delivery address? Customer, in a Coke. This made me irrationally angry. Knew a guy who was blown away by digital cameras. He had purchased an old terrible one and couldn't get over how amazing it was. Cameras truly have come a long way, and here people on Instagram trying to find 15-30 years old cameras for aesthetic r/analog. It isn't just Instagram. Not throwing shade either, I love that aesthetic. A co-worker a few years ago had spent 10 years in jail. He got out right when Bluetooth headsets for phones were huge. He'd talk about all the random conversations he thought people were trying to have with him, and smartphones freaked him the hell out. Well, tell him it's okay. I was confused a few times by those too. Once I thought a woman had a mental problem because she was talking to herself. Then she turned and I saw the earpiece. Prisoner transfer I did one time for this man who was sentenced to life in 1968, and it's the first time he'd driven past the CN Tower in Toronto and he couldn't believe how tall it was. That, and he was blown away by how many different car brands there were. FCK, 1968 is a long time. Especially in Canada. My dad was sentenced 8 years for manslaughter. He got off easy. Got a call from a woman filing a claim on some abandoned funds. I got all her information and then asked for an email address, and she said, "What's email?" I keep hearing about it, but you gotta understand I've been in prison a long time. I'm honestly surprised there aren't mandatory classes in prison that help keep people up to date on current events and technologies. It would go a long way to help ex-cons function normally in society once they get out, and isn't that the whole goal of the prison system? Now I can't get the image of a super burly prison officer teaching kids in juvie about current memes out of my head. Please use the meme in a sentence. After I stabbed the guy, I yeeted the shiv over the fence. Edit, my dudes, it's a meme. I'm not changing it to yote, chill. My friend got out of jail recently and was blown away by how many LEDs are everywhere and how many stores are using insane amounts of LED billboards. We were all at a buddy's house and he was blinded by all the bright LED light in the house. Edit, getting a lot of messages about this. My friend has crazy bright LED bulbs in his kitchen. You can see this guy's kitchen from space. Also, the one sign that he couldn't believe was an H&M LED wall. My cousin's husband, that she married while he was serving 10 years beginning around 2008, wanted the first thing he did as a free man was to go to Hollywood Video and rent movies to watch with her. Then she blew his mind with Netflix. At least the idea of Netflix and chill wasn't far from his original plan, but he was shocked about there not being video stores anymore. Without sounding disrespectful, what made her marry someone while they were serving time? Did she already know him? I'd imagine that would be a very difficult decision, to commit yourself to someone you know you can't properly be with for 10 years. You don't have to answer if this question is too personal. I remember getting the bus years ago and this old bloke got on heading away from town center towards the more residential areas. Without a second thought he sparked up a cigar. One of the passengers told him you can't smoke on a bus. He apologized and quickly stubbed it out, but said he got discharged from prison that day and when he went in you could smoke anywhere you wanted, so this was a massive culture shock to him. You have been sentenced to 10 years for smoking on the bus or FCK. Not my personal experience, but a man I worked with, after he was released from prison, after being sentenced as a young adult, was blown away by the touchscreen ordering at Waller and could not fathom why the employees could not take an oral order from him. I remember when I was about 8 or 9 using my first touchscreen in an office my friend's mum worked in. It was crap and hard to use. I thought it was amazing and futuristic. I often think back to that moment and marvel at how much they've improved and how I used one every day. I was thinking, wow, he uses a touchscreen every day. Then I remembered I was literally holding a tiny touchscreen computer that also acts as a phone. So you use the app, then you can reorder the same meal you always get anyway, and then at least you can live in the comfort of knowing it is your own faces you're swiping. Get off the high road, summer. We all got pinky because you won't stop texting on the toilet. I was talking to a lady who runs the education for a federal prison in Florida. She said when they start getting rambunctious or off topic, she mentions a new feature of the newest iPhone and all of a sudden they are very interested in what she has to say again. That's pretty clever. News from the outside world. My friend just came home 2 weeks ago, and I tried to prepare him the best I knew how for the excessive use of cell phones by everyone. I explained that he's going to be amazed by the amount of people glued to / looking at their phone 24/7 in the store, in the car, on the sidewalk, sitting in the house watching TV, like literally all the time. I also let him know that the technology is going to be really different since he went in over 13 years ago, so cell phones were still flip phones and definitely not as interactive, touch screens, and internet accessible. Needless to say, the second day home he called me angry as lol. He hated how he felt stupid and how he felt like a child because he could barely figure out how to call someone, let alone video chat / FaceTime. At one point he couldn't figure out how a phone call ended up on the radio when his friend turned on the car he didn't like, having his kids teach him how to use the technology, and just was getting really discouraged, basically reiterating the feeling stupid mentality. I just tried to reassure him that when we all were exposed to this technology, we had to learn it. And many people forget what it was like to not know how to use something like a smartphone. We take for granted how we learned something and how we were once new to a process. Today it seems he's being more patient with himself, but it is a daily struggle, and one I try to be positive and kind to him so he knows, if no one else, at least he can rely on / call on me to just listen to him vent. Having your kids teach you is an ego killer. Edit, not for all, but for the narcissistic ones it destroys it. So glad to see there are many good parents here. On the flip side, having your kids teach you is a huge ego boost for them. Anthony Ray Hinton described people walking around looking at down these things in their hands, phones, and amazingly not bumping into each other. Bow. On the day you were released, your best friend, Lester, who had visited you every single week for nearly 30 years, picked you up. You've been behind bars since 1985. So you got in his car, and what was the first thing you wanted to do? Right hand. Lester thought I'd want to get something decent to eat. But I wanted to go where they laid my mother's body. I see him messing with the radio dial, then we start driving down the road. I heard this little white lady say, in 1/10 of a mile, turn right. I jumped and said, what the hell? Bow. You thought there was a white lady in the car? Right hand. Yes, and Lester's laughing so hard he has to pull over. He says, that's a GPS. When he explained what it does, it really hit me how long I'd been locked up. The world had changed. Please like and subscribe for more. This is Laugh with Memes. Goodbye.